My name is Robert Naiman. I'm National Coordinator and Senior Policy Analyst at Just Foreign Policy.
What is Just Foreign Policy?
Just Foreign Policy is a national organization that works to get more Americans involved in reforming U.S. foreign policy.
Reforming in what direction?
To compel the United States government to conform to international law, to work to solve international conflicts through diplomacy. So, for example, we're trying to prevent the Bush administration from attacking Iran, trying to get U.S. troops out of Iraq and end the war there, work for a political settlement there. We're trying to get Congress to pass legislation that would sharply restrict the use and transfer of cluster bombs.
Right. All right. Is that an easy job?
It's a rewarding job because the thing that we're trying to do is one of the most important things that we could be doing on this planet in this country right now is turning around U.S. foreign policy from a policy of empire to a policy of cooperating with other nations. And we have tools now that we didn't have 20 years ago in terms of the internet and the web, blogs, email. It makes it much easier for people to cooperate around the country and get information out about what's going on in Washington, what the U.S. government is doing.
But presumably, whoever it is that's on the other side of the issues, they also have the same tools available.
It's true, and some of them are using those tools, but remember that some of the people on the other side always had millions of dollars more than we did, so they always had other means of communicating, like they can buy TV ads, and they have access to greater access to mainstream media. Of course, we fight on all these terrains. We try and get stuff into the mainstream media, and we using our membership list, we put advertisements into mainstream media. But the ability to communicate for free and have all these places on the internet where people can go. I mean, I have a blog on Huffington Post, for example. I post things on Common Dreams. People all over the country read these things who can raise the profile of issues like, for example, cluster bombs. And there's been almost nothing, very little in the mainstream media. But on the internet, you can find these things. The attempt to prevent the U.S. from attacking Iran. There's been very little coverage of this in the big mainstream media, but quite a bit of stuff on the progressive websites.
Would you say the majority of Americans are on your side or the other side?
It's definitely the case. It's definitely the case that the majority of Americans want to end the war in Iraq, bring the troops home. It's definitely the case that the majority of Americans do not want to attack Iran, want the conflicts between the U.S. and Iran to be resolved through diplomacy. So our task is to make the impact of that majority more felt in Washington, get more people contacting the members of Congress and organizing local events to raise the profile of that opposition. So it's not just an opinion poll, but an opinion that's having an impact in the political process.
It sounds as if you're saying the people are on one side, but the money's on the other side.
The people, that's true. The people are on our side, and there's a lot of money on the other side, but there's a lot of money potentially on our side. We have, we don't have so many millionaires. I mean, we have some that are for peace and a fundamentally different U.S. foreign policy. But we also have people around the country who could contribute $5, $10, $20, $25 to various projects to get the word out. So it's not the case that we don't have any financial resources. It's really a question of organization.
Why is it that the big money's on the other side?
Well, there are powerful economic interests in the United States that are profiting from the current arrangements. Obviously, the military budget is providing profits to arms manufacturers. We have, much of the media is controlled by large corporations that largely follow the agenda of U.S. foreign policy. So, for example, the New York Times and the Washington Post, if you look at their coverage of Venezuela, it's very harsh. Reporters who try to provide a more balanced perspective have a rough time there. So there are entrenched economic interests that are benefiting from current policies.
Are you saying that we might be continuing the occupation of Iraq so that someone can make money?
I think that's part of the story. It's not the whole story, but it's a very significant part of the story. Obviously, these private corporations like Blackwater are making tremendous profits off the U.S. war in Iraq. The weapons manufacturers are making tremendous profits off the war in Iraq.
But would the United States Congress be listening to people who are telling them start a war so that we can make money?
I wouldn't say that that's the whole story, but it is part of the story. I mean, right now a debate that's barely a debate, has gotten much less attention, is this proposal to expand the U.S. armed forces. And a voice that's not really being heard in this debate is people saying, wait a minute, like if we think that the policy in Iraq was a disaster, why would we want to expand the military? Is it to invade other countries? Okay, well, the members of Congress are influenced by the corporations that would like to see an expansion of the U.S. military, because that would mean more contracts for them. It doesn't mean that Congress can't do something else if there's not enough political pressure, but it is part of the terrain that we face, that every day, we have a mobilization every so often. Every day the corporations are having a mobilization in Washington, in the sense that their lobbyists are on Capitol Hill. They're meeting with members of Congress and their staff. They're lobbying for these weapons programs. They're lobbying for budgets that are paying for contracts with their corporations. So that's something that we need to counteract with broad and consistent citizen opposition.